Customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DeJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you.
Have you heard about our newest book? The Employee Experience Revolution, written by John DeJulius and Dave Murray. It's all about everything businesses need to succeed these days. How to increase morale, retain your workforce, and drive business growth. Order your copy today at thedejuliusgroup.com and receive a limited time bonus. 15 pages of interview questions designed to gauge an applicant's service aptitude potential. Get your copy today.
Welcome, revolutionaries, to the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I am John DeJulius, Chief Revolution Officer of the DeJulius Group. On today's episode, I am interviewing Jason Yarusi, who is a private fund manager for multifamily real estate. He is also a podcaster and pioneer of the Live 100, a program designed to build your desired future and live a life full of purpose. A revolutionary approach to personal growth that challenges you to reach beyond the ordinary and step into the realm of extraordinary potential. Before we get to our interview, let's talk about what's happening in customer experience news. A great source to learn what frustrates your customer is actually an unexpected source. Several years ago, we were consulting with a 5-diamond resort, and the general manager invited me to sit on a focus group, and I was excited to hear what their guests, their customers' feedback was about their experience at the resort. To my surprise, the focus group was not with guests. Rather, it was with shuttle bus drivers employed by the resorts. The shuttle bus drivers had so much incredible information to share about what the guests enjoyed and, more importantly, didn't enjoy during their stay at the resort. Most of the information was new to the leaders of the resort. They hadn't heard it before from guests or other employees. Why? Because the shuttle bus drivers were invisible to the guest. Think about it. Often, when you're a customer and you're near employees, for example, let's say we're at a restaurant and we're about to order a meal or checking out. We tend not to discuss things that frustrated us until after the server walks away and is out of earshot. However, when the guests ride a shuttle, they somehow forget that the shuttle bus driver is even an employee of that business, that brand, or is even there. In addition, when the experience just occurred, right? Like if you just came out of the spa or an activity at the resort, you want to talk about it. So the shuttle bus driver gets to hear critical intel on what many may have frustrated the guests or what could have delighted them. The shuttle bus drivers loved being part of these focus groups, especially when they saw how the action was taken on the feedback they were giving to the leaders, and the guests benefited from an improved experience. Now, another incredible resource is your contact center. When communicating with a customer service rep over the phone, that's the first place where customers share all of their frustration. As leaders, we need to encourage our customer service reps to share feedback when they hear it. We need to set up 30-minute intimate focus groups regularly, once a month, to allow the customer service reps to share what they're hearing. They are the first ones that will hear when something's broke on the website. What is frustrating? What's too many steps? This is a great place. It increases their pride of their job. especially when they see things that are taking place as a result of them being asked. They will be more responsive, more asking customers how their experience is. All you need to do is ask them. We will be right back after this with our interview.
Becoming the brand customers can't live without is a team effort. Want to get everyone on board and bought into becoming a world-class brand? Consider bringing John in live or virtually for a keynote or workshop. Email Claudia at thedejuliusgroup.com for more information.
Welcome back, revolutionaries. And today I am interviewing Jason Yarusi, who is a private fund manager from multifamily real estate. He is a speaker, a podcaster, and the pioneer of the Live 100, a program designed to build your desired future and live a life full of purpose. Love that. A revolutionary approach to personal growth that challenges you to reach beyond the ordinary and step into the realm of extraordinary potential. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, John, great to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you. So let's get into it. Tell me about the Live 100.
You know, I took a very non-traditional route to where I am today. So I actually left college. We were talking before this, at Lehigh University. I had a business degree, with finance, right? But that came about because I had a girlfriend at the time and I needed to get a major, right? And your girlfriend's mom was like, "You're good at numbers. Why don't you do business?" And so that was my whole choice around choosing a major back in college. So left college, not much desire to go into the financial space. So I ended up moving to New York City and started working in bars and restaurants. And then, had something happen where one night I was working at a bar. I was angry at life. I was pointing my fingers at everything but myself, right? I was blaming,
How old are you at this point?
I am 26, 27, right in the cusp, 26, 27, right? And so at that age, I've been doing just a bunch of chaotic, random things for a number of years. And of course, I was getting bad results, right? And when you think of that, many times we just say, man, like everything is the reason I'm getting bad results, right? The way I was brought up, or just the money I have, or just the relationships I have,
mentality,
everything, right? So I'm riding home, angry at the world one night on my bike. It's 2, 3 in the morning, and I get hit out of nowhere by a car, right? Puts me into the air. Next thing I know, I wake up just in the middle of 2nd Avenue in New York City with the light turning and all this traffic, and these couple kids just pull me outside the road. And so I go to the hospital, right? And I'm in the hospital. I have a broken shoulder. I end up getting a pin in my wrist. And all I can think about is this job that I hate, I despise, I blame for everything, right? This bar job is that I have to get back to this job because I have to make rent money, right? And so you have this crazy cycle of life where you can just continue on this path. But I had this moment of clarity of being like, you're talking crazy. You just want to get away from this. You hate everything about what you're doing. And now you get hit by a car and all you can think about is getting back to this chaotic life that you're living. Something's got to change. And now there wasn't this magical epiphany that night that I all of a sudden the next day, I'm doing all these things differently. But the next day I woke up with a bit of clear eyes and started looking at things differently about how I could potentially start making better steps. Right. So instead of the late nights and, just usually after the bar, you go have a couple of drinks, I started to change slowly and slowly and slowly. And so I didn't magically break out the next day, but over the course of the next few years, I ended up leaving that bar and opening my own bar, opening a restaurant. I opened and sold a brewery eventually called Alphabet City there in New York City. And then in 2011, I ended up moving to New Jersey to help my dad with the family construction business. And I never wanted to go in that business because I just saw how rough it was on my dad. But Hurricane Sandy happened on the East Coast and just decimated the East Coast. My dad had this very unique business where he just lifted homes. He would lift and move homes for a number of reasons, but one of them was for flooding. And so overnight, he would do 10 or 12 projects a year, and that's it. Just random calls of people calling him. That storm happens. The next day, he starts having 1,000 calls a day, every single day. So my little brother's working for me. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, Peely, working with me. We picked up, left New York City, moved out to New Jersey and started helping Dad with the business. And over the course of the next couple of years, about 5-6 years, we grew that business from the 10 to 12 jobs to about 250 jobs a year. But what I had is that I'd gone from a very transactional business, the bar world, to now another transactional business, the construction world, where all I was doing was these jobs jobs that took a lot of my time. I couldn't pull myself out of the construction business because of how unique it was and how specialized it was. So it wasn't very, you couldn't go and get economies of scale with it. So here I was doing all these things. Now my girlfriend, now my wife, is pregnant with our first child. And I just said, man, we got to do something to get back control of our life. And the word that came up at first was real estate, right? So we looked at real estate as the logical approach, but real estate's this massive blue ocean, right? You could, buy office buildings. You could do, house flipping. You could do Airbnbs. And so we did what we thought was logical. We started buying and flipping homes. And what we found is that we were doing fine with this, but we were so busy with the construction, and now we brought on this very busy thing again of flipping homes in New Jersey. So we just kept asking that question, what was it? Like, what could we do next? And what it came upon is that my wife, pregnant, met someone at a real estate meeting who was buying out-of-state rentals. And when I saw that model, we dove all in. And we started to get some traction, right? Because now we're putting together teams, putting together projects, we're empowering other people forward to go out there and do the steps to make the property and the investment a success. However, it just wasn't scalable. We were buying these like 1 and 2 family homes, 1,000 miles away. And although it was good, it just wasn't going to break the mold. It seemed like a lot of anarchy to have like 50 duplexes around the country. So I can't asking the question, what else is there out there? And it came up on a podcast where someone was talking about buying apartment communities. And that was that light bulb moment. I'd had small restaurants before, large restaurants, and it's basically the same process, right? But you can do more with a larger property where you're typically capped in a smaller one. Well, the same thing trends to apartment communities, right? The smaller it is, it seems safer, but you're also limited on the amount of revenue you can make, of course, and how you can economize on everything from the process itself to even a team with it. So we sold off those smaller properties, went all in 2015 and 2016. We bought a 94-unit apartment community in Louisville, Kentucky, and that was in 2017. And since then, we've done about 32 transactions. We've brought a little over about 3,000 units of apartments, about 300 plus million of real estate in 7 states today. So a lot of transformation. So where the Live 100 message came through is that I started to look at what I was doing, because a lot of people said, well, how did you make this change? Like, how did you make all these things happen? And I started looking at what I was doing is that I had to become self-aware about what I was doing and how it was showing up. Because many times we don't really are not able to step outside of ourselves and look back at ourselves to see how we're showing up. And in my beginning days, I was just showing up negative all the time. I was showing up angry all the time. And all of these was having an effect on my results. So I started looking at that and say, okay, I see where you are, but I need to start positioning myself in a better way if I want to have that success. And so we put this into 9 principles today based on 3 foundational blocks of going to break your bad habits so you can build the future you want, so you can magnify the results. And that's the 3 main foundational blocks of the Live 100 program. And we've been able to help people look at the same thing, right? Because many times we look at what we're doing and we just can't ask why we're not getting the results we want. It's because we're just repeating the same thing in cycle because we've become comfortable to approach.
So great story, Jason. Don't you think a lot of what you were going through, back in New York when you were serving and before your accident was just typical immaturity?
Yes and no. Through my formative years in high school, I ended up losing, when I was 13, my best friend was killed in a boat accident. When I was 14, my really good friend I grew up with blew his head off with a shotgun. They don't know if it was an accident or suicide, but no letter, right? When I was 15, I had a friend on the football team, right? Got in with a bunch of friends, doing drugs, drinking, drove into a tree, right? He's died. And so I had this girlfriend who was like my rock, like the one person I could talk to. And when I turned 17, she's going down the beach with a bunch of friends. Someone cuts her off and she gets killed.
Jesus.
So I had a lot of things happen early on that just made me lack, of course, confidence, made me lack, I was already shy to start with, and I felt like everything was being taken away.
Right.
So there was a lot of challenges coming to this part. And, I did very well in school, and I had no motivation. I came to Lehigh, funny enough, is that I had a football coach come to my school and said, you should come to Lehigh. I was like, okay. Didn't even know where Lehigh was. I committed to Lehigh. It could have been in Canada. No idea. right? And so that was my approach, my entry to Lehigh. I lost my lack. I lost motivation. I just had lost that desire because of so many things that just kept being on repetition, right? And so when you have that, and at times your parents are having their difficulties, it just culminated to me, going to school and not really taking the most out of school and then leaving school without really a direction. And so yes, in immaturity, we lack a lot in direction as well, right? We're still very, very crafted where our minds can go.
Yeah.
But in that front, I had these extra layers that were building on that I had to break away from just to really put myself in a direction. And I'm still learning today, but to give me not only the confidence, but also the ability to repeat the process day in and day out.
How do you measure success?
Honestly, when I look at success, I get up and do I feel fulfilled in the day? And I look at my day as that I'll get up and look at getting wins early on. So I wake up at 4:32 a.m., I get up, I have a glass of water, and I'll work out, right? It's one of the big parts of my day because I get that out of the way, then I can go spend time with my kids and get them onto school. When I look back, do I say am I looking to have a statue of myself? No, I'm looking to install great things into my kids. So one day, 10, 20 years from now, someone could say, oh, I met your kids. They're the kindest people. They're so helpful. They're so thoughtful, right? And if I look at that, then I know that I'll leave the world a success. And that's some of the main parts I look on today is that I may not be able to teach my kids everything they know, but I can at least give them the good habits, the good principles, the good awareness. So when there is something for them to go and decide upon, that they're in the right place to make the best decision for them at that time.
How many kids you have?
I have 3. Yeah. So 5, 7, and 9. So a bit behind you right now, but on the upcoming.
Yeah. Mine are all adults, but, yeah. And I heard it and you kind of don't realize it, the days are long, but the years are fast.
Yeah,
and it was just yesterday they were, little and, I was chasing them around. Yeah. What you're talking about, raising kids who are positive and doing well is the most rewarding thing in the world. All right. So let's talk about what are the key principles or pillars of the Live 100.
Yeah, I'll talk to a few of them because there's 9 in there that
I
think would be most important. And when you look at this, we talk to self-awareness, right? That's the first principle right there, is that we have to be self-aware of how we're showing up, right? And so I like to think of the Knights of the Round Table, right? So King Arthur had the Knights of the Round Table because it came out of a time of war and they wanted to have a time of peace. So they brought together all different people, all different societal ranks to stand together and help formulate to try to carry forward peace. But many times we're battling in our minds all these different conflicts, right? But we don't understand why, because we don't understand the things that are really drawing us forward. So if you look at this, are you showing up in a kind fashion? Are you filled with wrath or anger or rage or gluttony, right? Or envy, right? What are the things that are really driving you forward? Because when you start to really take an account to how you are showing up, it allows you to start looking at the moments of time and looking at how you can now change your reaction. Because we can control 2 things, right? We control what we do each day, right? What we give, and we control how we react to what's given. And most of the time, we may control and do what we give, right? And may be positive or negative, but we react horribly to what's given to us. And when we can start changing that, right, then we can start owning where we are. We can own who we are and then position ourselves for the greatness, right? And those are the 3 key principles of the break block, is that you have to truly know where your starting line is. And many times we live in the past and we live in the future, right? We look at the part is that everything's built upon, the fear of what's coming and also the regret of what's behind us. And I hear you 100%. I think even for my young kids today is that they've grown so old. My oldest, my 9-year-old, he's up to my wife's, chin, and it's like, what just happened? And I'm trying each and every day to take into account how quickly it's moving, to not let these moments wash over, right? If you ask me to do Legos, am I really busy? Do I really have something going on, right? Or is that moment where at 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, right? Is that really going to break something really powerful for me? And when I can look at how I'm showing up myself, it does have these ripple effects, right? You see it, with your kids when you're growing up, they start to adapt based on how you're reacting to things, right? So if I see them being, terse or quick with another one, is it something I'm doing?
100%. Every time I've ever been frustrated with my children, I realize they got that from me. Yeah. Exactly what you're talking about. And, good and bad. But the bad really drives me crazy that they model the behavior that they see.
Yeah, so true. And I see this even with them, they're in a great school, but they start to get these fears or these things, or I'm not good at, or I can't do, right? All these things that come back that they didn't have before they went out, right, into the world. And so you have to help them understand that, you can't be good day one. Like if you just don't ride a bike and now today you ride a bike, like you're just not magically going to be good, right? It'd be like if you go and you're trying a new anything, fill in a blank, you're not magically going to be good at it. And as adults, like we get accustomed to not want to try something outside of our bounds. And if you're thinking about success, right, you get used to a path of failure, right? So if health is something that's constantly failing to you, it's either two parts, right? It's you've lost that belief in yourself, or you're just not making a priority. And what it is usually you, right? If you're saying, I'm not able to, find time to work out, then the contrary is that, well, then it's not a priority. Because let's look at what is priorities to you, and we'll find why you're not working out. And when we have to break our habits, you typically don't just erase something. Like if today, you're eating a pack of donuts, you don't just tomorrow just stop eating a pack of donuts every day. You pivot it to something else. Maybe go from donuts into, fat-free fill in the blank. Or if you go from coffee to tea, or you go from smoking to biting your nails, right? You fill in these habits with another habit. And so you have to understand what that habit is, what's drawing you to that habit, and where is the pivot that you can make that will start giving you a positive result from there. And that's really where our break block is, because we, it's 75, 80,000 thoughts a day. We repeat 70% of them, 75% of them.
Break blocks a couple times. Define that.
Sure. So Live 100 has the foundation, right? You have to start on the blocks. And the big three, if you say, what is Live 100, is the ability to break the habits that don't serve you so you can build the future that will now allow you to magnify the success that you deserve.
So if I'm sleeping in and going out with my buddies too many nights a week and having too much, well, obviously that's the cause of why my relationship's bad at home with my wife, or I'm not getting enough done, or I'm not getting my workouts in. Am I along? Is that the kind of the
yeah, and 1,000%. And what we fail to look at is that the event right now may not have massive effect, right? So if today you sleep in, it might not have massive effect, right? But if you do this, right, and you repeat this process, the compound effect, right, that becomes massively, we'll say, a detriment to your future.
Right.
You can go in many ways. Like if you look at 1% improvement every single day for 365 days, right? It's 3,800% of improvement. Well, that can be positive or negative.
Yeah. Whether you do something today or you don't really doesn't matter today.
Correct.
Right. So if I blow off that workout, or like you said, I, choose donuts instead of a salad for lunch, I'm not going to look at anything different today. If I meet you out, you're not going to say, holy cow, what'd you do, John? The scale's not even going to look that much different. But the compound effect of making the right or the wrong choices in 30, 60, 90, 180 days is like a freight train that you can't stop, momentum. And am I right?
Yeah, all day long, because momentum is that word too, is that we look at momentum and we hear it, we want it to be positive momentum, but we don't look at actually how we're having negative momentum right now.
100%.
Right. And if you're just constantly at off, like with your relationship, with your spouse, or you're constantly off of how you're, going out there and performing in your job or in your business, right? You've built that in a many different layers. It wasn't just one day you were doing great and the next day you're doing horrible, right? We have these moments where certain days have events in them that are not fine-tuned or not the best calling, but that momentum starts building over time, and it's hard to stop, right? And so all you can do is start to unravel it, but you can't. We always look for these things that are these 180-degree turnaround. And I'm not saying, like me getting hit on a bike, like that was a big eye-opener for me, right? But it still took me, it wasn't that immediate. Like even that didn't cause me to say, you know what, like this is crazy talk. Like what are we doing, right? So many times, like we're so thick-headed to what we're actually doing because we don't want to ever have the finger pointing at us. It's like the accountability tool, right? I could look at you and be like, you need to be accountable to me, but I won't be accountable to you, right? Because I won't be accountable to myself.
If you enjoy what you're learning on the Customer Service Revolution podcast, you'll love our weekly newsletter, The E-Service. It's full of great customer experience tips and stories,
includes special offers, webinars, and more each week. To sign up, head to tdg.click/eService. That's tdg.click/eService, ESERVICE. Enter your preferred email address, and you can look forward to great advice from John in your inbox every Wednesday.
I mean, bad habits are, at the end of the day, an addiction, right? No different. Well, I want to be careful with that. But, like addiction, we lie to ourselves and say, I'm not addicted. I can have however many drinks a night, and it's my choice. But I'm sure that's the same thing with convincing or telling myself that, I can, choose these bad habits, right? And they're either not bad or, to each its own. But I have, I really like this topic because I end every podcast with my personal mantra is to live an extraordinary life. So countless others do. So it's not, so I have more houses, more cars, more vacations, more bigger bank accounts. It's like, as you put it, and it's hard. It's like your principles and pillars. You have to hold yourself accountable. But if I don't live an extraordinary life, my 3 boys just got cheated. My 150 employees who believed in me are getting cheated. My significant other. So that's why I love this topic, because I don't think it's an opportunity to live an extraordinary life. I think I have to. Otherwise, I'm cheating, you or whoever is dependent, and we're all dependent on each other, and so I always say, like, again, we'll go back to, the easy wrong choices. Having one too many drinks or too many nights or eating poorly or skipping a workout, whatever the obvious bad choices are that we can be guilty of. And you are my business partner, my best friend, my employee, whatever that is. I say you have a right to call me out and say, what the hell are you doing? And the first inclination is, Jason, mind your own business. You eat what you want, I'll eat what I want. But, if I'm making poor choices, right, that impacts you if we're a business partner or friends or relatives or whatever. So am I on the right path?
Yeah, you want friends in your life like that. You want friends in life. And the hardest thing is to really determine who you should listen to and who you shouldn't listen to. Yeah. But when to know when to listen, right? Because, like, let's take family, for instance. Many people, they will get loving advice from their family, but it's not good advice, right? Because the family, say, like my grandma went through, the Great Depression. Like, is she going to want me to go out there and step outside of my comfort zone? Right. No, she's going to want to be, because she's like, don't do that. It could be risky, right? Doesn't mean she doesn't love me and care for me, but she's trying to give me what she thinks is the best advice based on her experiences. So we do want to take into account other people who are going to call us out, because that's going to be great for us, because sometimes, it's like we're stuck in a jar and we can't see the label, right? We can't see how we're showing up. So we have people come out and be like, listen, like how you reacted there was completely out of line. Like, you didn't need to do that. Like, there was many different ways that you could have had that same effect in a way that would have been helped to empower forward the conversation, right? But if someone comes out and just says that off the cuss and we don't have that into our circle, right? We could take the complete, like, I know better, right? And many times we're so forceful with our reaction without actually listening first and allowing it to sink in. So it couldn't be more appropriate to have the right people around you, because what am I going to know everything and know what's the best reaction? Like, that's why we have all these people out here and these trusted allies with us, because they're going through things in a different way, different times. They might be 2 steps ahead of us, 5 steps ahead of us, 2 steps behind us, a mile behind us. Who knows, right? But at certain parts, they've all faced different things that we could all help together to be better together, right? And that's the whole purpose of all this.
So is one of your things, it's got to be in there, who you surround yourself with.
Correct. Yeah. So you have in there, you want to, there's a couple different to talk to this, right? So you have intentional execution, right? That has core pieces to it, right? Where you're executing, but you're executing alongside of it. So you have accelerated growth, the accelerated growth format that goes into magnifies where you're surrounding yourself with more people that want to rise together. And then you have the last one is all inspiring rise. And all inspiring rise is where that you're rising together, right? Because the purpose of Live 100, just like you said, it's not for you to go out there and just be your best self and forget everybody else. Because
Right.
what kind of world is that, right? It's a world that you go out there to improve yourself and you prove forward to people around you. And it could be, just your inner family, and that has repercussions. It could be, your community. It could be, it could be your church. It could be your business. It could be all these other people, because if you can rise them up, bring them together, right? And then it ripple effect from them doing the same after that, what do you think society will look like? But many times it's, dog eat dog world. We're out there just trying to, take care of ourselves. And the reason that our success gets limited, or where we get, is that we shut off all these other doors that could be open to us, where not only that we could get things that would help us forward, but we could also potentially help other people 10 times further than they are now.
So Jason, are you doing this? Are you teaching? What's the name of your podcast?
So we have two. The one is my multifamily live podcast, and the other one is Live 100 podcast. So Live 100 podcast with Jason Yarusi.
And that's about this?
This is all about this. All we talk to at Live 100. It's all short form, 10 minutes, just me talking to a lot of the principles, a lot of lessons learned, everything from, leadership to family to relationships. That's the podcast there.
Good. I'm going to make sure that's in the show notes. Where do people start, with this? Do you have, is it on your website? Is it document?
Sure.
Where can people start with this?
Easiest part is you can go over to jasonyarusi.com. There's a free self-assessment there that you can go and see where you land today in the Live 100, in the 9 principles. It's 27 questions, very easy to go right there. Give you a quick video recap at the end right there. Allows you to dive in, just take quick action. Very easy. It's 5 different answers for each different question. You can dive right through that, just see where you stand today. And it allows you to at least get a point of where am I showing up? Where's my starting line? Because when we could just start being where our feet are, things can happen very quickly, because too many times we're stuck in the past, or just really looking into the future, or forget to take into account what we're actually doing right now.
Yeah. So people can find out more about you. Jason Yarusi, YAUSI.com, correct?
YAR. So Jason,
I'm sorry, I have it right.
USI.com.
Yeah, Jason, YARUSI. And this will all be in the show notes. I'll also have a link to the Live 100 podcast. Anywhere else people can follow you or learn more?
Sure, yeah. You can find me, Jason Yarusi, at Instagram.
Okay. I'll put that in there, the Instagram one. So what's your goal? What when we talk in 5 years, what do you want to be telling me?
Live 100, it's been a message that we've started to really put together as a package together in the last year. And so I think where my aim is that I'm going to allow this to continue to help people, but to have other people come in to be able to share that message as well. Because I'm only one person, right? I can reach people through a large audience through a podcast. I'm able to help so many people coaching just myself. But the more I can bring under my hat to be able to help and continue to expand the program, that's going to be where I see success lies.
And are you working on a book?
So I have a free ebook on there that you can find that speaks a lot to breaking bad habits. So that's the book I have right now. You can find that in the resources as well. It's a free ebook that you can find right where the self-assessment is there too.
And Jason, circle back. You probably said it, but what do you think the number one obstacle is to why people aren't where they want to be?
Mindset. It all comes down to how you're showing up. And the hardest thing is that you can have a great day and be ready to take on the world. And the next morning, you have to wake up with your same mind, with your same thoughts, your same reaction, start all over. There's no just, switch on that I'm good forever, right? And so the hardest thing is to get up and just reset each day and put yourself in a clear mind. And when you can understand that, our thoughts, our fears are, they take away our future, right? And there are many times that we live in these moments of anxiety or these moments of panic for things that never actually occur.
Yeah.
And when you get up each morning and say, listen, and just another off the cusp part is that I look at some of the things that we're going through, our challenges, that I face my day. And then, on one of my properties, we have an insurance group that insures the property. And I get an email back from one guy. He said, I apologize. This one lady hasn't been back to you in the last 3 days. Her 3-year-old just got diagnosed with kidney cancer. And it's just like, you look at things like that and you put into context of like your world. Like, am I really facing big challenges right now? Right. You look at that, like the
Will it
greatest
matter
part
a year from now that, whatever, that with the things on the smallest terms. And I always say, like, I am lucky. I don't stress, but I have people, and it's hard. My fiance stresses, and, it'll be about like, we're supposed to be going somewhere this weekend and the forecast is rain, and she'll be stressing all week, and then it doesn't rain. And I'm just like, when you stress like that, you're living through it, whether it happens or not. And if it does happen, you're living through it twice. But this, it's hard to tell people, to, think different. And I don't even know how to, I just, have to accept it. And listen, there's things that she has to accept and people in my life have to accept about me. But that's just one thing. I just don't worry about things. I'll rise to it or it'll pass.
Correct. So running an outdoor bar in New York City and then also working in a construction business, I found the best thing to do with the weather is just not even pay attention, because you'll find out that morning. But every time I tried to prepare for it, it never happened. And the more I prepare for it, the more it just blows up everything else behind it. And it's a hard lesson to learn. But 5% of the time, the weather bites me. The other 95% of the time, it's just another day. I have no idea what's happening out there.
But I mean, that's true for almost anything.
Correct.
Right? The recession. Oh my God, we're going to be in a recession. We can't spend. We can't do this. We can't do this. And the old quote is, the economists have successfully predicted the last 26 out of 5 recessions, right? I mean,
that's right. It's my mom says, I wish the news would stop scaring me. I go, well, it's very easy. Just turn off the news.
Right.
Right. That's it.
It's also my other favorite, thing when we're talking about, habits is, you can't eat what's not at your house. I mean, that's my number one thing. Now it's harder when you have little ones and they want their snacks. You don't want, but if you come to my house, it's like, and you wake up at 2 a.m. and you want to binge, your choices are carrots and celery, right? And, there's no ice cream or only because I don't eat one, I'll eat the whole bag.
Yeah. Well, it is, someone said this the other day. It was like, you can eat everything you want. There's always things that taste amazing out there, but nothing tastes better than feeling awesome.
Right.
And so you can do all this horrible stuff and make you feel horrible, or eventually you'll see that, eating well makes you feel great, which makes your day better, and everything just follows from there.
I love it. We're speaking to Jason Yarusi, who has the podcast Live 100. He's a speaker, author, and just an all-around great dad of 3, husband. Jason, I really appreciate your time. This inspired me.
Thanks, John. Excited to be here. Thank you.
We'll be right back after this. Let's wrap up this episode with my mantra, living an extraordinary life so countless others do. What does it take to be a revolutionary? Have you ever thought about that? You are a revolutionary if and only if you are fascinated by the future. You are restless for change. You are impatient for progress, and you are deeply dissatisfied with the status quo. You are never satisfied with the present because in your head you can see a better future. The friction between what is and what could be drives you. You lose sleep at night. That is what a revolutionary is. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the Customer Service Revolution Podcast.